Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review 803. Today we're going to look at Super Boss Monster, which I believe is hitting shelves right around now. There was a crowdfunding campaign, I believe last year or so, and I think some of the backers and so on have gotten their copies of it. This here that I'm going to show you is like a retail version of Super Boss Monster. I did review the original Boss Monster, I think like 10 years ago. So this has some updated stuff. Now this plays 1 to 4 players. So one of the main things that's introduced with this particular edition is the new solo mode. And I'm actually going to teach the solo mode. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to teach the solo mode. It is not that different than the kind of the normal game with multiple players. I will, as I'm going through it, kind of show you, the slight differences between solo and and multiplayer. I have played it multiplayer and solo, and yeah, so it's basically the same as Boss Monster if you've seen that. There is some significant differences beyond this to solo mode, though. There's kind of like a worker placement aspect to it, and a little bit there's like basically a town board that you can send your little minions, your workers to. But let's go and jump down to the table, and then show you how everything works, and I'll come back and talk here. Okay, so I've got the game set up here. You can see here's the town board, and this is on the solo mode side. The reverse side looks very similar to it, and there is also, actually I stuck it under the insert, there's a little sort of paper extension there to play with 5 and 6 players. Although it looks like you need parts of the big box. So there was like a Boss Monster big box, which I think was like the all-in or something. I'm not really sure, but they do give you that. So if you buy this and then, slowly add extensions onto it, then you'll be able to extend the board out there. A couple other things to note here. So we've got the hero deck up top there. Now, the one thing that it mentions here in the rule book, a couple of things to note, is that you can basically mix in any of the previous Boss Monster base games and expansions into the spell deck and the room deck, but it mentions that you should just use a hero deck from one particular set. So here I've of course got the set for the Super Boss Monster set, but if I wanted to start to mix expansions, I could do that, but then I'd want to choose a set of hero cards from an individual expansion and just play with those, because that's the way it's been balanced. Now the other thing to note, since I'm showing you the solo mode here, there is a QR code in the rulebook here which will send you to this, which I've just printed out. So this will give you the cards set up basically for solo mode, because you do pull out, because there's some spells, for example, that target other players, and you just take those out and that kind of thing. And there's a couple of other adjustments for each of the pre-existing expansions and promos and base sets from all the other Boss Monsters sets there. And again, you do want to use only, well actually in this case, if you're playing the solo mode, you want to only use the heroes from Super Boss Monster. You don't want to use heroes from the rest of the sets. And that'll make sense here in a minute. So if we scroll down here a little bit, we have our normal setup. So you're always gonna, just like Boss Monster, I'll kind of breeze through some of this, and I will link to my Boss Monster review, which will be relevant here in a minute. You choose 2 bosses, you set them aside there. Whoever has the highest XP value will just be the first player, and then go clockwise around the table. And this is a tiebreaker, so if you have a tie score at the end, whoever has the highest XP, wins the game. And I think there's a strength level, so the lower XP, the stronger the special ability. I'm not really sure though, because I kind of went through these and I was like, probably, I don't think I'm smart enough to figure it out. And then, so you can see here's the level up ability. And so like the previous editions, once you build your 5 rooms, you're always going to start off building a room here to start the game. Every player is going to do that, and you do that again in solo. Once you have 5 rooms built, you're going to unlock here your level up ability. And so you can see in this place, I have a spot here for my awesome looking minion worker here. And so the minion actually lives on this little minion space, this little summoning circle thing. And there's a reason for that. So you'll put them there. And then if you want, you can put that there. Once you have leveled up the boss, this space will become unlocked. Now other level ups here will be like this one here says for the rest of the game. Instead of drafting from the market, you may take it from the top of the deck, either deck. And so that's like a new ability that unlocks. And then some of these, like this one here, will just trigger. So once you level up, then you will instantly do this effect here, which is discard your hand and draw extra rooms and stuff. So they'll either be a new worker placement spot, a new kind of always on ability, or just some instant effect that will happen once you build all 5 rooms and level up. So once players have built their room, they'll actually have a hand of 5 rooms, and then they'll build one and they'll have 2 spell cards to start. And then you will go through here, and this is a kind of a handy reference here in the back. Shows you all the turn phases, all of the iconography, what each of the worker placement phases does. And it's pretty simple, so you'll get it pretty quickly. But everything that you need to remind yourself of anything is in here. And I hadn't played Boss Monster, like I said, in probably 10 years. And you know, so I had a little bit of pre-knowledge, but going through this rule book, which is cool because the box and the rules are shaped like a Super Nintendo box. That probably doesn't matter to anybody that's under the age of 40. But anyway, it just reminds me of being in junior high, I think. And so once you get all that stuff set up here, you'll deal out a certain number. Now, since this is a solo board, it's a fixed number here. But on the reverse side, there'll be little player icon indicators to deal out a certain number of cards. So basically, this is almost like a 2-player game because you'll have 1 spell. You always have 1 spell, no matter what number of players. And then equal to the number of players, the number of rooms there. So we always have 1 extra card to choose from. And then you'll deal out here at the top these heroes. So on this side of the board, you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, and that'll make some sense here in a minute. But regardless, this is the same in single player and multiplayer, as you'll deal them starting from left to right. Now in the other modes, you always deal 2 off, and then you keep filling them up, and then they'll start to come out of this like town square area here at the top, and they'll start to come in these specialized buildings. So you have the temple, stadium, library, hideout, and the tavern. Now in solo, you always deal 3 every round. And what you do in the solo mode, in addition to taking out some of the, you know, sort of take that spell cards and things, because there's no other players, you will remove a certain number of heroes and some specific heroes, because you can see in the multiplayer game, for example, there's this hero here is the criminal. It says when this hero enters town, immediately place them in the hideout. So any heroes that have that effect are removed in the solo game. And the reason that's important is because if you ever have a hero that ends up in the tavern, then the game will instantly end, and you probably won't have a very good score. But in the multiplayer game, what happens is, and let's just quickly go through the turn, is you'll restock the town board and the market every round. Players will then draft from these cards. Everybody's going to choose either a room or a spell, and they're also going to place their little minions out here, or even on, you know, one of their action things here. And this will happen in turn order. Here's the turn order marker, and this will pass left every round. So you're just going to keep working clockwise. So once players have drafted a card and placed their minion out, then you're going to build. Everybody can build a room. So you can, everybody does this simultaneously, puts the room face down, flips it up and reveals it. It has the same rules as Boss Monster, where basically you can build anything you want. You can build stuff on top of stuff, but if it has a gold icon here, you have to build it on top of a matching sort of NPC type, because these are different treasures or different sort of types of NPCs, so magicians and thieves and clerics and stuff. So to build anything with a gold icon on the left, I have to build on top of another spell book. Other than that, you can basically build, you know, however you want there, up to 5 rooms. So after they build, then your minions are going to trigger whatever ability they have, and then you're going to bait these heroes here. So you're only going to bait, though, the heroes at the top. So we're going to take a look at this hero. So this is a thief. So whoever has the most of those icons will lure that thief. That thief will come down, and then it'll work its way through the dungeon, which I'll show you, just like Boss Monster. But if there's a hero down here, let's just throw the criminal out here, like so, then the only way to lure this one is to go and have your minion in this spot. So let's take a closer look at this space here. So each of these sort of town spaces have 3 spots. You have this spot here, and each of them corresponds to these different tokens here. So this is a way to add one of these kind of treasure types temporarily to your supply to, again, hopefully start to attract, you know, certain types of these heroes, these NPCs to come after you. So if you're trying to eke out this ability here, you know, or that type of treasure, and get that. And then each space will also have a different sort of special ability, which I'll go through in a minute. So you can do either of those, or in the case of if there is a hero here, you can go and recruit that hero. Otherwise, those heroes will stay there. And if a hero would be placed here in this particular spot, instead of going to that spot, they're just going to start to have a stack here in the tavern. Now, like I said, in the solo game, as soon as a hero goes to the tavern, that's the end of the game. Otherwise, on the flip side of there, instead of a +2 heart, you can see at the bottom, there's a -2 heart. And what happens when you go to these spaces here is you will recruit that hero, but you can then also send them to somebody else's dungeon. You can send it to your own as well. But so in this case, maybe you want to sort of coax this criminal to go and attack your buddy Billy across the table. So instead of 6 hit points, if you recruit him out of his kind of specialty building, he'll get a little +2 on his card, and so it'll be a little bit more difficult to kill. Whereas, apparently, I don't think the rules say this, but once they've been hanging out in the tavern, whoever the top guy in the tavern is going to get a -2 because they're probably drunk and not going to be able to fight that well, and they're foolishly running off to a dungeon to try to get treasure. So that's what the bottom spaces are going to be for here. So that's how you recruit. So you could recruit them directly, or then again, you're going to compare icons of all the players and then bait them out. Now in the single player game, how this works is you see this is the number of treasures that you need to have. So the guy in the first spot here, this is the 1, you just need to have 1 of these thief icons, and then that will come to you. This one here, this is the mage, this was in the 2 spot. You need at least 2 of these icons or else they won't come to you. So again, like I said, what happens here is you deal these out, either 3 in a solo game or 2 in a multiplayer game. If you go to deal out, you know, 1 here, and then it's filled up, and this will vary, the size of this town row will vary on the other side, but it's always 4 for a single player game. But once you go to place a card and you don't have a spot for it, then these are all going to start to shuffle down here to these spots, and they'll start to move over. And then, you know, like I said, some can come directly into these spots and so on. But once these are here, they're locked in. And in the solo game, you can quickly see that, you know, if you don't deal with at least a couple of these at the beginning, and at least hopefully 3 as you start to move on in the rounds, these are going to start to fill up. And then you won't be able to go, you know, fight them all, and then you'll get 1 in the tavern, and then that will end the game. So it kind of mimics the management of baiting, you know, the heroes and stuff like that in the solo game. And then once everybody has like a stack of heroes in front of them, they're going to work their way through the dungeon. I'll just throw some rooms down here. And then as they go through, you can see the amount of damage that the room will do to the hero. So if they can get all the way before they get to your boss, and you do X number of damage, in this case 6, you'll flip that over, and that will give you 1 point at the end of the game for the basic heroes. And then you always start off with a number of basic heroes, and then you have the epic heroes, which have a little bit more hit points. They do more damage to you if they get all the way through, but these are worth 2 points. Now if you cannot defeat them, then instead of turning them over and collecting as a treasure, you can tuck them under your card here, and that will count as a wound against you. Now in the normal game, without you know, solo, with multiple players, you play until somebody has 10 points in front of them. Once that happens, you finish out the round, and then everybody's going to add up their total number of points, subtract the number of wounds, and that's going to be their score. And that's it. And then obviously it's tiebreaker. Now for a solo game, the game will end, like I said, if a hero ever has to be placed in the tavern, or if you take 5 wounds. So on your 5th wound, then the game will end. And then also once you reveal the last card of the hero deck, then that will also end the game. And then what it is, it's kind of a high score scenario, which I don't usually like in these kind of games, but I actually do like it. I'll talk more about that in the review. But yeah, so you want to try to clean up and vacuum up all the heroes on that last turn, because, you know, like I said, it ends once you flip the last card out. And then it gives you a way to kind of score that. And again, you do score it where you total up treasures, points, basically minus the number of wounds that you have. And again, I didn't show you any of the special abilities and stuff, and it's all about, you know, having combos with all your rooms and building the right rooms on top of each other, and then playing spells to kind of go around that. Or some rooms will tell you to discard spells. Sometimes you'll get like little buffs on your rooms, little +1s, +2s, +3s. The other change or rule, I should say, in solo mode is you can never have more than +4 on a particular room. You don't have a limit in the multiplayer game, but in a solo game you cap it +4 on these icons here. And I think that's about all of the rules for the game. Okay, so that was my overview of Super Boss Monster. Let's just go ahead and jump into my 3 pillars of review. Now the playtime here says half an hour, and I think that's about right. Now I've played this at all player counts. I don't know that a 4-player game would take 30 minutes. It'd probably go a little bit over than that, I think. It kind of depends. I've played this game with people that have played it quite a bit, and those games are definitely quicker than, you know, new players, because there is a little bit of a barrier in terms of just understanding and quickness when it comes to understanding all the abilities and stuff on the cards, right? Because if you've never seen it before, you're going to go, oh, how does this going to work with that? How do I combo with that? So there's a little bit of analysis paralysis, but once you get familiar with, you know, the different effects and abilities, it will play pretty quickly. And I could see a group of 4 experienced players playing it in half an hour, for sure. It is a very quick game. Even in the solo game, it's going to be quick. Now, player count is going to kind of lead me into what is this game like. So if you go back, and I'll link the review of Boss Monster. I don't remember exactly what I said. I may go surprise myself while I'm editing this one and figure out I didn't say this. But my feeling of it, once we played the heck out of it back in the day as well. And I really like this game. I think I like it more than anybody in the group of people I've played it with. I think the theme does a lot of work for me. I think the kind of the whimsy fun of it does a lot of work. Like it fits in a kind of a really nice niche for me. It's not very serious. It's not very, you know, overly mechanically burdened with all kinds of different rules and all that. But it does have a lot of interesting sort of little card combos and things like that, and little puzzly bits that kind of like a Magic the Gathering or, you know, Dominion Ascension, blah, 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 any kind of card game. It does that really, really well. That part of it's really cool. Now, the thing I think where myself, and not everybody that I've played it with, but a few, they don't like the take that part of the cards, because there are some spell cards. I can't remember what it was called in the original. In this, it's called Chill, where basically you play it and somebody's room doesn't work. So as the hero's walking down the room, you're just like, oh, it doesn't work. So they don't end up, you know, being able to kill anybody that turn. So I've seen that in moments where it's kind of a feel bad moment. For me, like I said, it's a kind of a short 30-minute game. The theme of it is your evil super bosses in this case. And, you know, that's just kind of part of the game. And I don't know, like, if you're playing it, because I have played it in situations where people are really number crunching, they're really counting the points, they're really trying to eke out everything instead of just kind of playing seat of their pants. So in that kind of situation where you're like, I'm trying to get this, you know, one last point to win, and then somebody plays that out of the blue, it's kind of like, So, but I understand that. I mean, I totally get the feel bad. For me, though, because of the way the game presents itself, it doesn't bother me. Okay, so now, though, I'm going to take back to player count. They introduced, and this is frankly the thing I was most interested about in the game, was the solo mode, because I was like, oh yeah, let's try that. And I think it works really well, and I think that's my favorite player count at this point. Not that it's like way better than, you know, multiplayer. I think it just, if I've got the right group, I love to play this multiplayer because it's just fun, right? It's just a fun game. There's a lot of games that are just, there's nothing really like profound or something, you know, to say about them or whatever, or, you know, crunch on the mechanics like a bookworm, you know what I mean? Like, it's just fun. It's just kind of seat of the pants fun. And this has that. But what it's really cool with the solo mode is, first of all, it's, I would say, moderately or mildly difficult. Now, I've like, it's hard to explain because you score up. Basically, you have the 3 end game conditions. Like I said, you either get 5 wounds, you go through the hero deck, or basically the heroes kind of like overrun you and they get to the tavern. And then the game will end and then you'll score. In any of those cases, you're going to score. So you could have a very, very low score if you don't, get off your butt at the beginning of the game and the heroes kind of overwhelm and overrun everything. You're going to have a very low score. Whereas if you can make it through to the end of the deck, you're going to have a much higher score. And so there's a lot of granularity in the score chart. I should have showed it to you, but I think you can pull the rule book offline. There's like 10 or 12 different levels. It's like every 3 points, is a new title that you can achieve. And the maximum you can get is 36 because there is 12 basic heroes and 12 epic heroes, but the epics are worth 2 points each. So if you can kill all 24 heroes and not take any wounds, then you get a perfect score. Here, hang on a minute. Just getting the rule book here. I have not gotten a perfect score. If you get all 36, you are the grand ultimate master of the dungeons. I got to boss monster, which is like a couple down for that. I scored 30 points. And I got total boss a couple of times. And then I don't remember what, I didn't even want to look at it. I got much lower than that because basically it's happened a couple of times where the heroes have overran it. Because there will be a certain point when you're playing it solo, you're like, I don't have what it takes. I don't have the right setup. And I'm just going to get, slammed. And I know it's going to be a super low score. So I'll just scoop it, reshuffle up everything out, and then, deal it out again. And the reason that I like the solo so much is because I love to get the hand of cards. It does something really nice where you get this hand and you're like, okay, what is the puzzle here? Because you've got to figure out juggling. And it's just like the multiplayer in this way, but it just feels a little different where you've got to juggle the right treasure icons, the little class icons for baiting the heroes. And you've got to really make sure that you can basically get all of them, which is a little bit different than in multiplayer. Because in that you maybe will start to focus and specialize here and there. You have a tendency to do that. In here, you don't want to do that. You've got to catch them all in this case. And so you've got to balance that with setting up a right little combo engine of things. And the thing that is also a little bit nicer about the solo is when you have that engine set up and it's just kind of like running, for a couple of turns. When you do that in multiplayer, then it can be a little bit like you're kind of watching somebody do stuff. Like it doesn't take long, but it's like, oh, I'm kind of watching you do that. Okay, boring, But if you're by yourself, nobody's sitting there waiting for you to like run and count your damage. And usually you can figure it out pretty quickly. But you know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to sit there and wait for somebody, even if it's only like, 20 seconds. So it's fun. You can just kind of go, oh, rip, got those are dead. And then, do the next round. So it plays pretty quickly and snappy that way. But yeah, so the other part of this is the worker placement part. And so the other part of it that I found is a little bit of the feels bad is where you can, especially early game, is you can send somebody, it depends who you play with, but, particular people I play with sometimes, is you can, send a hero to somebody and they're obviously not ready for it. So you're just like giving them a negative point. And so you could see situations where people are just like doing that to be kind of jerks. Again, it's the table of people you play with. But also this game, it's like, okay, well, whatever, I'm an evil boss. Like that's what's supposed to happen. You're an evil boss, but I'm the evilest boss. You know what I mean? So it's fine. But yeah, I like that. Or you can go and collect, I like that you can get the different abilities. I didn't really go over the abilities, but it'll allow you to draw extra cards or add little bonuses to your last room and, draw new spell cards and all that kind of stuff. Pretty simple stuff. But yeah, I recommend this. So I would say the thing I was most interested about, and I did reach out to them for a copy of it, is like I really want to check the solo out because I remember really enjoying this game way more than everybody else even back then. And there was a guy there, I'll call him Billy. His name's not Billy, but I haven't seen him in years. But he also really liked it too. He might be watching this video. I'm not sure. Yeah, so I was really, like I said, intrigued by the solo, and it really pays off. And so I'm curious now about mixing. I talked about in the walkthrough how the mixing is going to work. And it seems like they've really taken some care and balance to kind of at least think through how that's going to work out in the solo mode, which will be nice because it'll be, like I said, the whole puzzle combo thing is the part that I really enjoy for me, of putting in those rooms and the spells and everything together. And it'll be good to add, you know, like a good mix of stuff in there. So anyway, Super Boss Monster, take a look at it. I think it's a lot of fun. Thanks.